news. A man was killed and a woman was injured by a Ukrainian drone strike on a civilian car in a village in the Bryansk region, according to Governor Alexander Bogomaz. The governor has said that Ukraine carried out a targeted strike using FPV drones on a moving civilian car. He confirmed that the woman was taken to the hospital where she received all the necessary medical care and stated that necessary support and financial assistance would be given to the relatives of the deceased and the wounded. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry reported that it has liberated 2 communities in the Kharkiv region and the Donetsk People's Republic over the past day. Now we stay in the region. The Russian embassy in Baku has confirmed that the Russians recently detained in Azerbaijan have been granted consular assistance. This comes after Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that consular staff had agreed on access to the 13 Russian citizens detained in Azerbaijan. On June 28, the investigation committee's branch for the Sverdlovsk region said that it had suppressed a group involved in several murders committed in Yekaterinburg in the early 2000s. Early defendants were taken into custody. According to reports, one of the defendants died from heart failure. The cause of death of the second person is being established. Their bodies were taken from Yekaterinburg to Baku, which said that forensic medication examination detected signs of violence and protested to Russia. Now we move on to Europe. The Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned today that a failure by the United States to provide essential military support to Ukraine would mark a major setback, not just for Ukraine, but for Europe and NATO as well. Her comments came amid reports that President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to discuss the recent pause in U.S. weapons deliveries during a call on Friday. Meanwhile, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said the U.S. decision to pause some shipments is a clear message that Europe must step up its own support. She called for increased defense capabilities not just at the EU level but across the entire continent. Now we're joined back by Joshua Barnes. He's anchor and correspondent at NewsX World. Joshua, what more can you tell us about the EU's reaction towards U.S. or deciding to pause the military deliveries on Ukraine?
Well, yes, Suma, I'll keep this brief because we have touched on a lot of the ramifications of that pause to some aid from the US to Ukraine, but it's interesting to hear some EU response. Of course, the Coalition of the Willing, a group headed up by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, has seen wider European unity on the issue of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. There are fears amongst some EU countries that if Ukraine were to fall, then there's potential risk to them as well. These comments are in line with rhetoric that has been repeated for weeks and months now amid a US shift in policy towards Ukrainian support. I expect there to be more calls from European leaders about that US support, but a lot of that potentially hangs on what happens in this phone call tonight with US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Could there be any developments from that phone call that look towards sanctions and a potential step one way or the other from the US under the Trump administration? We'll keep an eye on that.
Thank you very much, Joshua Barnes, for joining us and